So you can go from hair pulling to skin picking to lip biting to nail biting and then back to hair pulling, you know, all in the span of whatever amount of time the chemicals in your brain decides to function. Spoiler alert, none of these things have to do with being pull free. Sorry. I'm going to safely assume that you are at least a couple videos into your how to stop pulling videos marathon. I have also watched so many of those videos. I'm really hoping that these are things that I haven't seen or heard in the other videos, and so hopefully you haven't either, and that this will be helpful for you. Disclaimer time! Not a doctor, not a psychologist, not a therapist. I'm not a lot of things, honestly. But the thing that I am is a person who compulsively pulled out their hair for 15-something years of my life. At the moment of filming this, I still pull out my hair every single day. I just care about it a lot less than I used to. These strategies haven't stopped me completely from pulling for the rest of my indefinite life, but I often do get the question, how do you stop pulling? If I had to answer that question in any way, this would be how. One of the things that has helped me is to stop counting and tracking how many hairs I'm losing. This doesn't just include pulling. I use the word losing specifically because I used to track kind of obsessively how many hairs I lost. Besides the hair that I would pull in the shower whenever I was shampooing my hair and then a hair like gets loose, as hair does in like the natural scape of the world, I would keep a track in my mind of how many hairs I've lost that day. And it didn't matter whether I pulled it out or not, I would still count it. And I would have this running tally in my mind, basically 24 hours a day. This was not healthy. The level that I took this was definitely not something that I was comfortable with, that made me feel good, and it just didn't really contribute to my overall well-being. I was just hyper-focusing on what I have lost as opposed to what I was gaining. One of the ways that I try to manage this aspect of like counting and tracking is, first of all, I got rid of all the tracking apps that I used on my phone, and I stopped tracking my pulling on a calendar, which I used to do a long time ago. In the shower, I stopped pasting the hairs on the wall. I just let them run down the drain. I used to always have the excuse that like, oh, I'm keeping it on the wall so I could throw it in the garbage so that I don't like clog up the drain. But honestly, I don't lose like that many hairs. It's not a big deal. My drain can take it, and so I've just accepted the death of my drain for the benefit of my mental health. Get rid of the hair as fast as you can. That's not always immediately, I totally get that. Like, you just space out and then you forget like that you exist as a physical person, and that happens. It's okay, don't worry. When I snap out of that, my favorite thing to use is the lint roller. It removes the visual reminder of, you know, obviously looking at the amount of hair that I pulled. It's not really about how many hairs that I pull, it's more about how many times I want to pull. I elaborate in the next point. Instead of trying to quantify every single pulling session, I just started seeing every pulling session as like the same. That's something that I used to do. I used to kind of say, well, it wasn't that bad, so it doesn't really count. Didn't matter if I pulled 1 hair, 5 hairs, 50 hairs, 500 hairs. Didn't matter if I like went bald in a day. That didn't matter because the fact that I was constantly trying to justify and rationalize and quantify, did I say quantify already? The fact that I was constantly thinking about my pulling was really detrimental, and I think that might be the theme of these points, is that I am trying to move my mind away from thinking about pulling, thinking about hair, moving my mind away from that and into better things. So instead of constantly thinking about my hair loss, I try to focus on my hair growth, which isn't as easy as it sounds, because watching hair grow is like watching grass grow, like watching paint dry. You can't really see it unless it's like a long-term thing. It's hard but not impossible, and it's hard but necessary. And you're opening it up for other things, other like better, more fun, more important things that you could be thinking about. Because our brains can only run at so much capacity. And the fun thing is, we get to think about whatever we want. When I started implementing that in my own life, that's kind of how I found it was easier to manage my hair. Not because I was pulling less, but because I was thinking about it less. and putting less emphasis on it. By reducing that, I opened up space to worry about other things. Stop pulling out like other hairs. I pull out the hair on my head, but I don't pull out the hair on my eyebrows and my eyelashes. But for some reason, when I do pull out the hair on my eyebrows and eyelashes, I don't count it. I say it like, oh, that's an outlier. As long as I'm not pulling the hair on my head, it's fine. But I don't know if it is. It's not about being like strict with yourself and being a hard ass on yourself. It's more about just embracing what is actually happening. What is the reality of what's happening? It's not that I'm pulling less on my hair, it's that I'm pulling the hair on my eyebrows instead of on my hair. Trichotillomania is pulling the hair on the body. For what I know, this is my body too. Migration is totally a thing and happens to so many people experiencing BFRBs. You can even like flip between different BFRBs. So you can go from hair pulling to skin picking to lip biting to nail biting and then back to hair pulling, you know, all in the span of whatever amount of time the chemicals in your brain decide to function. Don't be too hard on yourself. Like I said, this isn't about policing your body to the point that you feel like you can't function. It's about accepting the reality of what's going on and being honest with yourself. And the more honest you can be with yourself, well, what happens? I'm not really sure. But the more honest you can be with yourself, the more complete you feel. And the less that you feel like something is missing and that you have to fix something. Because a lot of the time, the pulling and the picking, it's a result of like, I just want to fix the thing. Whenever I have the urge to pull, that actually means my brain is looking for something. It's asking for something. It's like a crying baby. A baby is crying because there's something wrong, but you don't get to know what it is. Baby isn't gonna lie there and be like, mother, feed me. You kind of have to go through a few steps to figure out what the baby is looking for and figure out how to satisfy that need. So I kind of see the urge to pull more like crying baby time. Okay, have I drank any water? When was the last time I ate? Do I need to take a shower? When was the last time I got up and like stretched my body? These are very simple things, but they could be the difference between a pulling session where you spiral because you're ignoring your basic needs of a human being versus recognizing that, okay, body needs something and we're gonna go figure out what the hell it wants today or right now, because every moment is gonna be different. Baby cries for a different reason every moment that it cries. You don't need to be so hard on yourself when the world is already so hard. Physical things that you can do to manage your pulling. I try to avoid touching my hair as much as possible. Before you pull, you have to touch your hair. I know that once I start touching my hair, it basically opens the gateway to pulling my hair. Pulling my hair doesn't happen if I don't touch my hair, and I think that's different for everybody. It's kind of about doing it in little incremental moments throughout your day and throughout your life instead of trying to go like head on and say, I'm never going to pull again. And in the case that I do touch my hair, I try to touch my hair with a flat palm as opposed to running my fingers through it. Running my fingers through my hair becomes a gateway portal to pulling my hair. But I find that if I touch my hair with the flat of my palm, it'll really decrease the sensation and desire to pull. Sometimes when I shampoo my hair, I'll shampoo with flat palms only, especially on days where I have pulled my hair a lot. If I feel an itch on the back of my head, instead of scratching it with my fingertips, I will, just rub it with like the base of my palm or the side of my hand. Anything that is abnormal for you to do, but you're avoiding the sensation of like wanting to pull. That's something that has helped me in the moments where I feel like my pulling is out of control. In those moments you feel like there's nothing you can do, when in reality there are a lot of things you can do. Play this video again, put it on a playlist, I don't care. Just like, this is stuff that I wish I knew, and maybe if I knew it sooner it would be helpful, but at the same time maybe I had to go through it to learn about it, whatever. All these points basically reinforce the idea that by taking care of your mind and taking care of the things like surrounding your hair pulling, that still counts as taking care of your hair pulling. And that still counts as like managing your hair pulling. It's just in an indirect way. You're taking care of it by feeding your body 3 actual meals a day, and by showering when you actually feel dirty, and drinking water on a regular basis and not letting your body just dehydrate and shrivel into nothingness. All these things that seem disconnected because it's not stopping you from pulling out a hair. It's not like growing your hair at like supersonic speed. Even though they're not directly related to your hair, they are. Your whole body is connected. Your whole body is a universe. I think intergalactic warfare is the best way to describe what my body has felt like in the years that my hair pulling was at its worst. I hope this video has been helpful for you in any way. I really enjoy making these videos, and crazily enough, I really enjoy talking about my mental health and about my compulsive hair pulling. I hope you have the best day that you could possibly have today. Bye!